I know that I sound like an old person right now, but we need to talk about your teenager's situationship and why that's okay. Teenage relationships are either completely nebulous and vague, or they're entirely too extreme and intense. That's today. That's what we're talking about. And this is now Parenting Teens Today. I'm your host, Tiffany Dogie, President and CEO of Children's Harbor. And with me today are three leaders, moms, rock star humans that have very different perspectives about this. So let's do this, ladies. Introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about your day job, and then I want you to answer the question, what is different about dating today that would have blown your parents' mind?
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm Julie Kana. I'm in media and public relations, and probably one of my most important jobs is I am a parent. I have three children. A 23-year-old who I suppose is not a child, but still is.
Still a child.
18 and 17-year-old. And I definitely think that constant access to one another is what's very different today than when I was growing up.
I agree.
Constant.
I'm Dr. Linda Parker. My day job is the CEO of Women in Distress of Broward County. I also raised four amazing humans who now have had three more humans. So
Oh,
I'm a
Awesome.
grandmother, so raised three daughters and a son. And I will tell you what's different in dating is the span between before technology and technology now. And that goes back to having constant, but also how does that technology change the way they communicate? And what does that look like in dating? And that would have blown our parents' mind.
Mhm.
mm,
Yeah. Teresa Kennedy. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Christie House. Two major roles that I have there is I oversee the drop-in center for young men and women who have experienced human trafficking, as well as those who are at high risk. And I also oversee our prevention education program. And in the personal life, I have what I call two mini adults, 21 and 23. So they're definitely still growing in all the ways. And I would say two things probably that are most different. One, how early young people are consumed with the idea of dating, and then also communication. Nobody's having an actual face-to-face conversation, meeting someone, passing a phone number, trying to have a friend, hook you up with their friend. It just doesn't look the same anymore. And I think that's something that they miss out on.
Okay, so help me out.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you because you seem to be the one who's got a finger on the pulse. What is a situationship?
Oh, a situationship is quite common right now. It's where they don't exactly commit, like they don't verbalize the commitment, but there's an understanding. It's ambiguous. Like there's a lot of misinterpretation that they're together but not together. And essentially, it leads for a lot of feelings getting hurt. A lot.
We used to call that talking. That's what our kids
Ah,
talk at.
yes,
Remember that?
totally
Yes.
same
Talking,
thing.
same thing.
Talking.
Yes.
Talking.
But
So
Saying it out.
Yes.
Yeah,
How my
so
relationship with
talking
my husband
was-
started.
Yep. So
Yes.
talking was the pre-dating situation that you had. Now they just changed the word to
Yes.
The
situationship.
only thing about situationships that I think can go on longer than talking, I think there was this natural trajectory with talking, and then you did move into
Yeah.
that exclusive talk. People stay in limbo in this limbo
Yeah.
situationship, like indefinitely, if you allow it.
Well, I honestly cannot wrap my brain around this. You're 15 years old.
Yeah.
And there's no, they don't even ever define it. Like, it's just normal. Are they allowed to have other situationships?
No.
Oh,
It's the pre-dating.
It's like the extended.
It's extended.
talking
It's the way so
phase.
you don't really have to commit to. You can just say,
Right.
"I'm in a situationship," and
Yeah.
everyone's like, "Oh,
oh.
well, that seems totally rational." And when it comes to age, I will say this: one of the things I tell folks all the time is, if you think about when puberty hit
Mm-hmm.
for us when we were at our age compared to when we would start dating, that time was a little bit longer, right?
Mhm.
Whereas now, folks are hitting puberty in fourth grade, fifth grade. So by the time you get into high school, you have the hormone level of a grown adult, where in the past, you would have hit puberty 15, 14, 15. So by the time you got to college is when you would hit that hormone level. So right now, that's the other part, the science piece is that you've got these kids that are like, have the hormones racing of an adult with, you add a phone to it, you add all of these other things, and it's just like the perfect soup.
That is such a scary thought that I've
Really
never
is.
thought of. Oh my God. Okay, great.
Okay, so
Everyone's getting the talk again when I get home.
everyone's going to talk. So now we're going to go to the opposite extreme because this is the most concerning to me. We go from situationships where nobody has any defined expectation
Mm-hmm.
to we're filing joint taxes together. And you have my location all the time, and you have my
Yeah.
passwords, and we are on FaceTime. They're on FaceTime.
Correct.
It's not just
Mm-hmm.
one call. It's like they will walk. I've shared this before, but I will have kids walk into my office to have a conversation, and they've got their phone, and there's a person on the phone,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and I'm like,
Mhm.
Who are you
who's on your
talking to?
phone?
Yeah.
And this person is just hanging out on the
Yep.
phone, listening, and they never turn off their phone. They're
Yes.
always on the call, always on the FaceTime call.
Correct.
This is normal.
Ugh,
Yep.
So,
unfortunately.
It
is this even healthy?
No, I don't think it's healthy for anyone to be that. I mean, I personally don't think
Yeah.
so, and I think it leads to confusion. We had some kids come out to the center, and we do this thing with them. Some teenagers from the high school. We do this activity where they have to determine if something is healthy or unhealthy behavior, right?
Mhm.
And we
Mhm.
split the room, so we give them a scenario, and in the scenario was you tell your partner that you're going to be with your parents all day, you're going to be unavailable to them, absolutely, and they blow up your phone all day long, texting, calling. Is that healthy or unhealthy? And there was a subset of teenagers who felt like that was healthy behavior
Mhm.
because they felt like in their mind that showed a level of commitment to the relationship regardless of the boundary breaking. They were like, oh, but this is how they love me. And
Mm.
that's why it's scarily unhealthy, because being connected to someone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week isn't realistic, but it's also emotionally and psychologically draining.
Mm-hmm.
That is so correct. Because my daughter just got out of a relationship that was very much like that. He was on the phone and it ended about a month ago. And she is like emotionally exhausted. She's like, I'm
Mhm.
never like, I need a long break, a very long break. She's a strong,
That's like an
strong young
emotional
girl.
Yeah.
spouse.
Yep.
Right. And she's like, I cannot commit to that like ever again. So it left her almost a little jaded in a way. She doesn't want to ever sign up for that.
But she doesn't view it as abuse.
No.
She
Mm-mm.
But it
doesn't.
is.
No.
Okay.
Correct.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It is a sign of isolation and control. It's the first signs of control as it relates to domestic violence, and we see it, and it's part of the reason we're seeing a huge increase in domestic violence for teenagers is because of that. I Everything. I want to know where you're at all the time, right?
Mhm. Giant
I've
red
been
flag.
married for 22 years. I don't have that kind of tether to my husband, right? Because it's just not necessary. So that's what we need. Kids need to understand that that's not normal, rational behavior for someone to control your actions or tell you who you can and cannot hang out with or who your friends are or who, and know where you're at all the time.
Which is why I asked the two of you to be here because it is a concerning increase in, I don't want to call it domestic violence. And I'm not the domestic violence expert here, but there is a concern from an everyday perspective, what they consider to be healthy and what they consider to be unhealthy in their relationships. And and of course, we are coming from
Right.
the nonprofit social work sector. So I'm seeing a lot more kids put hands on each other, both male and
Mhm.
female. I'm not sure if that's happening in in the real world. Sorry, I'm not sure if it's happening in the real world,
Sure.
but I'm seeing a definite increase in males and females feeling it's okay to put their hands on each other. But also that emotional control is really, really concerning to me. So I wanted to know your perspectives. What signs might indicate that a teenager is in an unhealthy relationship?
Endless.
Right.
Yeah, I think everything we just described for sure. That need for their partner to know where they're at, sharing locations, an expectation to be constantly checking in with one another. Um, Having issues with their circle of friends, like suddenly deciding that your friend group is not going to be our friend group, and maybe it's not even a situation that there's any friend group anymore. It's really just the two of them together.
At 15.
At 15, literally at 15 years old. And if that young person isn't taught from a really, really young age about how to have certain boundaries for themselves, what those expectations should be, and what it should look like in a relationship, then that door is wide open for
Mhm.
somebody to come in and take advantage of it. And I see it on both sides. Honestly, for me, I have a son and a daughter. And when it came to my son, I saw it more often with some of the girls he was dating because he was very active in sports. And all of a sudden it was, who's boohoo crying because you don't have time for me and you're not answering my call. he's out on the soccer field. Like he's not with anybody else. So it's really, there's a lot of, I would say, expectations for young people right now about what relationships are supposed to look like. And they're very unhealthy. And I think it's important for us to make sure that there's very open communication. And I say from young age, I'm saying middle school for sure, because that's where everybody's deciding they're
Definitely middle
suddenly in a
school.
relationship.
Right.
To make sure that they know what a healthy relationship should look like, and then we have to take it the step further and do our best to model it ourselves.
They're gonna say though, they're gonna say to you, "But mom, that she's just worried about me. Mom, she just wants to make sure." I'm looking at you because you just went through this. What did you say to
Well,
her?
the
Anything?
well, yeah, but part of it is that you don't know you have to have those conversations until you're in
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
So I guess the part that I missed is doing it preemptively. And I love that exercise that you're doing with those kids. I would love to see what that
Yeah.
looks like and be able to do it with my own
That's a
teenager.
good
I
download.
don't
Yeah.
know where resources like this are. Also, as a parent, what's tricky is you think to yourself, if I have these conversations about relationships too soon, am I encouraging it? Am I endorsing it at this age?
Such a
So
great
for
point.
my perspective, I was like, I'm just gonna not address
Yeah.
relationships until she was in it, and then I'm seeing things I don't really like. Then yes, we're having it, but again,
But by that
maybe
time, it looks
correct.
like you're against the boyfriend versus against the
Yes.
Exactly.
relationship.
Yes.
And I
Exactly.
think for my husband, I took a very different approach. We were very open with the kids very young, right? Because we had both seen really terrible relationships, but had been really in terrible relationships and could see the precursors that were going to come for them
Mhm.
when they got into high school. We talked a lot about with my son about behaviors like, what your son experienced. We talked with our daughters about the other side of that. Like, this is not a situation where you have to jump into anything. You're in high school, enjoy the time that you're having. If you're going to date, be responsible, take care of yourself, right? We kind of gave the girls, we had 3 of them, the girl rules, right? You don't leave yourself open to, you leave as a group, you don't leave your friends behind, you do all this stuff. But you're
It
right
is so
that,
sad that we have to have girl
but we,
rules and bad and
oh
boy
no,
rules.
we absolutely do.
Absolutely do though. Yeah.
And
Sorry.
I
Go on.
remember being pregnant and telling people I would never treat the 2 genders differently. I was like, oh, well,
Yes,
that
you
went
do.
out the
Oh, I
window.
do.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, with the kids, having those conversations, like we go into the schools at junior high and we start talking to them about healthy relationships, but that has to also be modeled at home. And
Mm.
this can't be, it's not up to, even though I love teaching them, it can't just be one group of people saying this is a healthy
Yes,
relationship. When they come home, they have to see that
See the healthy
model.
relationship.
That's right. And
Yeah.
they have to see that mom and dad don't fight like that. And they use good choices when they do disagree. They use appropriate, environmental things. They don't
Appropriate
lash out.
language.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
They're not mean to each other because love isn't mean. And that's something kids have to understand. Like disagreements are human, but meanness is not.
That's why I was hesitating about talking about putting your hands on each other, because obviously I'm working with kids who are being removed from physically violent situations. So what's been
So what they
modeled in their
see
homes is that
is
when you get angry, you put your
right.
hands on somebody.
Mhm.
You strike out.
Yeah.
So I feel like my perspective is skewed when it comes to the real world, what's happening in real homes or with real teenagers, because it's not being modeled in their home. But yet, I did my Google searches and my best friend ChatGPT searches, and there is
Yeah.
an
It's
increase
happening
in domestic
everywhere.
violence in
Yeah.
normal homes
Yeah.
It
that's
is.
not being modeled by their parents. Is it may
It's like 28% for teens right now, a 28% increase in domestic violence. And on the adult side, it's about the same amount since the pandemic. So
I thought so.
we're not okay. Like as
I
a
thought
society
so.
right now, we're not okay. And so that's the increase that you're seeing, right? You see this increase in the home. So then the kids get in and then it's cyclical because domestic violence is one of those things that can be generational. And so imagine you see your parents duking it out and then you get in a relationship and you're like, well, I saw my mom or my dad hit the opposite parent and now that's how we're going to mitigate our
Right.
problem, right? And for adult people, it's hard to parcel out domestic violence, right?
Yes.
Because it's such a psychological
Mhm.
thing. We want to treat it like it's not, but it is.
It is.
And for those in a domestic violence relationship, these abusers they're not abusive all the time. You see snippets of them, and that's for young adults. They're like, but he's not mean all the
All the time.
Right.
and
It's
and
so
then
confusing.
get loved bomb, and then and that for a grown woman whose brain is fully developed is a struggle.
Mhm.
So to expect these kids to be able to understand the cycle that they're in, It's
He
tough.
he only hits me every once in a while. He only
Exactly.
hits I shouldn't
Mhm.
have made him mad.
Exactly. He
No.
If I
told me,
hadn't have
I'll
said
just
that
say that.
thing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or the emotional abuse, right? No one is going to be better. There's nothing worse than for a young woman who
Mhm.
already is in a self-esteem.
Mhm.
You're in that weird kind of place as a
16 years old.
teen. Yep. And then you've got this whole man, this whole 16-year-old telling you, no one's better than I will. No
You think
one
anyone's
can
gonna
love
put up
you.
with you?
That's right. That's right. No one's going to put up with I do. I have to hit you because I'm trying to help you learn and grow into a great woman. And in your mind, as a 16-year-old, you're thinking, well, he's just trying to help me, right? He loves me, so
Loves me.
we're gonna improve this relationship.
All right, let's reel it back to normal homes. I want to believe that
there are
I
those
was
there
gonna
are
say,
that
normal
and
homes.
normal?
So is it
It's really
normal
normal.
for your son to allow a female to have his phone passwords and his location? Is that okay? I know it's
So he
normal.
does. He does. Again, he's now 21, newly 21.
He's a
I
grown
will
up.
also tell you that this is the same girlfriend he had in middle school.
Oh,
Short breakup, which means mommy said it was okay for her to be your girlfriend in middle school because if I would have said no, it would have happened anyway. We just
Mm.
wouldn't have known about it. Um, Everybody has everybody's location now in that generation. Everybody. So I actually had to have the conversation even to downsize the friend group needing to have your location because nobody needs to know.
Right.
All these people don't need to know where you are. So for me, and this is, I think I probably actually should take a quote from my husband. He's very specific and has been this way. And it was a weird thing for me and my own issues in college. So that's where we met, of meeting a man who didn't like follow and fetch and worry about where I was. And I was like, wait, does he really not like me that much? Like, what's
Mm.
that about? Because the
Mhm,
prior
yeah.
relationships, it was always about where you're going, who you're with. Clearly, it wasn't a phone thing because we did not have phones.
right.
But my husband's philosophy on life, which he has taught to both of our children's, you have really no control or say ultimately when that other person decides they don't want to be with you anymore.
Mhm.
Share a password, don't share a password. Share a location, don't share a location. If they're gonna go, they're gonna go. And that probably means that there's something in your relationship that's really not right or just not right for each other. So don't be so wrapped up in all of that.
Right.
And I have to say, for both of my kids, that worked because there was never this sense of, I have to make sure I'm doing all these things to make this other person so happy to make sure that this relationship lasts.
That's the key.
Yep.
You
Ooh,
can't make that's the
performative.
key.
That's
That's
the
the
mic
key.
drop.
Yep.
Those
Yeah.
performative behaviors. That
Yep.
is 100% correct. I think especially females tend to get wrapped up in that a little bit more than men, maybe, or boys. But when you do start to see them overextending themselves, oversharing,
Yeah.
that can. I always say there's nothing more dangerous than a female that can't say no.
Mm.
So I taught my girls very early how to say no. No, just no.
Yeah.
No to anybody, anything that
How'd you do
don't
it?
like.
How'd you teach them?
Even something as simple as when they were younger, let's say we're in a restaurant and maybe they got a lemonade and when they ordered an orange juice and they're like, oh, I'll just keep it.
No.
No, there's
Right.
you can nicely
Yes.
address it, but you
Yes.
address your needs and you say no. And
Yeah.
Look at
you
how
have to say
passionate I was
no.
about the orange juice versus the lemonade.
I know.
That was such a passionate response. It was like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why would you ever you
Right.
have to say no?
Have your
And if
voice.
your friend is asking you to do things you don't want, say no. It gets easier. No doesn't get
does.
harder.
No.
No only gets easier the more
Absolutely.
you say it. But to normal homes, I would like to add,
Thank
I
you.
noticed both of you, well, all three of you are married, and
Yes.
I love that. I am single, so we're divorced. A conversation we have to have in our home is that, hey, you guys, you don't have a normal, you don't have a two-parent household model. You don't know what that's like. Even though we do co-parent very well as divorced parents, you're not under the same roof. So I'm like, statistically speaking, you are at a disadvantage, right? So we have to fill those knowledge gaps. One thing that we do is there's three professors, relationship professors that I like on TikTok, and I have my kids follow them
Do it.
because I'm like, that's where they consume their information.
Yeah.
So, and I've already studied their work. I like their work and what they're
Yeah.
teaching. So I have my kids follow them because
That's a
someone's
good
got to fill
idea.
some of the gaps here,
Absolutely.
Someone's
I
got
love
to.
that. I actually love that. You did the
Yeah, I
due
do
diligence.
too.
You handed them and it's
Mhm.
not just you reinforcing the value system that you want your kids to.
Exactly. And see what some of this normal relationship looks like and normal speed of a relationship too.
And it gives you the opportunity to then have the conversations with them about what it is that they're seeing on those TikToks,
I
which
think
is huge.
this is one of the
Exactly.
reasons why we have the podcast, because I feel like I keep using the word normal, but regular everyday parents do not have the clinical resources that we have available to us.
Very true.
That's very true.
We take for granted, because we've been in this field forever, that, oh, if I have a question, I could just go to Dr. Linda, or I could just go to Dr.
Right.
Dr. Julie, or I have so many people to ask. But normal everyday parents find themselves in a situation where their child is an emotional spouse at the age of 15.
Mm.
Everything's being shared. They're being isolated by this,
Yeah.
and they're looking at them and going, this isn't normal. This isn't right. And they don't really know, like you
Right.
admitted, I don't know where to find these resources. So it was one of the main primary motivators was, let's share what we have collectively.
Mhm.
We will have a free download available with this episode. So if you love this conversation, you're like, that's me. Thank God it's not just my kid. Go to the episode notes and click on that free download, and we will have a resource there to help you in your home in with
Good.
many of the things that
Yeah.
we've mentioned today. We'll go ahead and include that in the free download. But so I want to thank you for being here. But let's go back to something that you mentioned before. You said these are some warning signs for isolating behaviors, I think is what you said. Give our listeners some examples of really red flags for unhealthy relationships.
So red flags. The location sharing can go either way, right? At the end
Mhm.
of the day, it really depends on, as you pointed out, we're switching generational stuff now, right? So
Yep.
what we at one time would say would be, oh, like they're stalking you, may not be the case. I think more what we see now is the isolation, the control. So it's not just about, do I have your location? It's, what am I calling you and questioning why you're at that location,
Yes.
right?
Great
So
point.
am I
Great
saying
point.
like, oh, it looks like you're at the ice cream shop. Who you at the ice cream shop with?
Mhm.
Why are you with them? Like those are the earliest questions.
So like your intention.
Your
behind
intention
having it.
behind having the
Okay.
information. It's not about having it. It's about what you do with it, right? It's about the questioning when I question why you need to have it, right? So if I say, I'm not really comfortable sharing my location, I don't even share that with my parents, and you freak out, that's a red flag, right? Because you should respect my autonomy as your partner.
Mhm.
Even if we're 15, you should respect my autonomy.
Mhm.
That goes back to the word no. It's a full sentence. And when people figure that out, they're much happier. Isolation from your parents. There's no one that will see something going bad more quickly. Doesn't matter who your parents are, than your own family, your sisters, your siblings, your parents. Isolation from them. Not all of a sudden you don't see this kid at all. They're
Mhm.
gone out of the house all the time and they're always with little Johnny. But little Johnny is everywhere. He's always got to be around. He's in your house after school. He wants to be there. He picks her up for breakfast. They go.
Oh.
There's no your daughter without little Johnny. They're
Mhm.
always together. The friend group thing, right? The isolation of, well, where's Sally? I haven't seen Sally in a long time. You guys have been best friends since kindergarten. Well, Johnny doesn't really like Sally. And so, she just hasn't been around. So you giving up your friends, right? You
Mhm.
giving up your support system for this one person who you barely know. And those are the things we say to kids, if you're going to be in a relationship, be in a smart and healthy relationship. Keep your own boundaries, right? And I like the idea of telling kids no early, because there's a lot that goes into that. One of those is consent. So we always told our children, just
Mhm.
because one of your family members wants to physically touch you or hug you, or
Yep.
you can say no, and I will support that decision, because just because grandpa wants to give you a hug doesn't mean you're in the space where you want to be hugged or
Mhm.
touched, and maybe you're not that kid. And families
Or
tend
grandpa
to
wants to kiss you, because that
Right.
older generation still
Yes.
Right.
in the face.
Yes.
You don't have to be kissed
You
in the
don't have
face.
to.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents are like, "Oh, but he's so old. I don't give a
Mm.
hot
Yep.
minute." I'm like, at the end of the day, you get your body autonomy.
Absolutely.
And when we teach, especially young women, that, it's easier for them to see it. If we start early, they'll see it when it's not what it's supposed to feel like. And so those are some of the early, like, I'm cutting you off. I'm reducing your space to just me.
Mhm.
And intention doesn't always meet what they are doing, like the location.
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask a really ignorant question.
Go for it.
Did we do something wrong as parents if our daughter, I'm not going to say, if our child is allowing themselves to be controlled like that, is that a parenting fail?
No,
No.
No.
no. No,
You
no
know,
more
I
than
think
it's
it's
a fail on anyone else
a
for
knowledge
domestic
Yeah.
and
violence. So,
experience.
yep.
Yeah, I think it's just comes down to if you don't know what healthy looks like, you don't know. You only know what you know.
Right.
So, and a lot of it is guessing games. So I love what you're saying because there is so much gray zone. I know even myself with all of my kids, I've spent a lot of time analyzing the gray zone. Like they do this so well, but I'm also experiencing this and this seems right. And even in my own kids, right? I've
Mhm.
seen them exhibit behaviors in relationships and I'm like, "Hey,
Mm.
curb that. I don't like the way, I don't like that tone. I
Yep.
don't
Yep.
like this.
Yep.
I don't like that." So, I mean, I think that it always lies in the gray zone. And so you only know what you know until somebody tells you otherwise, till someone says, just like I love those red flags that you just outlined. Where do you get those all in one place? Like,
Yeah.
well, now in the
Now in
download.
the
Yeah.
download.
Now in the
Now in
download.
the
Thank
download.
God.
Yeah.
We're gonna make her turn them in.
Yeah.
There you
Yes,
go.
we need those.
I
Oh,
I interrupted you when I at the last one.
I think the other piece of it is just lives, right? So
Mhm.
you have all the best intentions. You're teaching your kids as they're growing up, and then things happen. For my kids, COVID had a huge
Mm.
impact on them. My daughter was, I feel like, stunted. It's like she lost 2 years because she was right in the middle of high school. And she's like, talking to her boyfriend out the window, and her and her friends, like the idea of face to face conversations and connections and learning those skills of how to communicate and what feels not right in my gut and how do I, make sure that I'm following those things. They almost don't have those same opportunities that we had because our interactions and our communications with people during that time frame looked so different. And I would have to say, like, and I just want to make sure I reinforce this because there is so much that we have to make sure we're teaching our sons. And it's not about our sons needing to protect our daughters or protect the women. It's about making sure that they're also setting those boundaries for themselves. Because I have to tell you, I was probably more afraid when my kids were growing up of like who was going to show up at my door for my son that I was going to be like, yeah, wow, no. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
not no. And I'm just
Sorry, I
gonna leave it
shouldn't
at that
Put
laugh.
so I
some
don't
clothes on.
I'm
I
gonna leave it at
raised a
that so
son,
he's
like,
not gonna be like,
but
Mom, really?
They're
Um,
aggressive, these females.
yes,
They really
man,
they
in
are.
a way
are.
that they
And I think the
where's your
most
mother?
yes. And I mean I remember, and they're gonna laugh, but I'm telling the story. I remember when, like, it wasn't even middle school, it was before middle school. I went to field day at school and there was this little girl with her t-shirt tied up, so her belly's showing. I'm like, hey, we're at school and our belly's showing. Okay. And it was, hi, Miss Kennedy. Are you Leos's mom, right? And I'm like, why is she so concerned with whose mom I am? I'm like that. And like from that moment on, I was like, yeah, no. And then they went through high school together. And guess what? Mommy was right. Mommy was right. My radar was right. But that's where I just want to say, like it's very easy for us to get caught up in how we need to make sure that we are teaching our daughters because we know what the reality looks like for them.
Right.
We absolutely do. And we know what their challenges are.
Mhm.
But I think making sure that we're teaching our sons along the way and also making sure they feel safe enough to have the
Right, that's
conversations
right.
with us when things are not okay is really important as well.
All right, back to consent. How do you well, no is a complete
It
sentence.
is.
And so is yes. And you can say yes and then also choose to say no the next time.
That's true. And what I used to tell my kids is, I prefer you say no because a yes is harder to undo than a no.
Yes. Yes.
And I think, the other part of that is giving a lot of grace to teenagers because here's the long and short of it. I would never want to raise a teenager today.
I know.
I would never want to do it.
So awful.
The social media aspect, my
So-
kids
so
were the
much
last
harder.
generation that stand the
Yes.
gap between before and after. They had to learn a lot of hard lessons on social media, but teenagers need a little grace, right? And I think because one of the things that we do get into as parents is when we do have teenagers, even if we don't always see behaviors that are negative, we sometimes assume that they're doing that behind our backs.
Mhm.
So then when something does happen, we extreme it out, right? Instead of sitting and talking and having like open dialogue and having conversation about relationships when we see it, we freak out and then that sends them packing, right?
Mhm.
Because they're like, so we used to do things with the kids like, you can call me anytime for any reason, time of day, night, doesn't matter. I will pick you up and they had one, we called it the, I think we called it the fast pass or something. Didn't matter. Could be illegal. I could be picking you up from jail. I could be picking you up, and you could look at me and say, "Mom, I'm using my fast pass," and I could say nothing. I wouldn't lecture you. I wouldn't.
That's brilliant.
I would take you home. It would never get brought up again unless it was a legal issue and we had to hire an attorney. But at the end of the day, you get one of those one-time shot to absolutely screw up so badly that I won't lecture you. The rest of the time, call me and I will pick you up. I picked up kids at 2 a.m. at a party that they didn't expect to be at. You know, those are the
It
moments.
happens a lot.
It does happen a lot. And those are the moments where once you show your teenager, I'm here. I'm here to support you. This is a transition time for you because you're about to become an adult, and I need to shore you up and get you ready to be an adult. Once the kids see that, they'll be more open with you. They'll be way more
Absolutely.
open.
I love that. I love that fast pass idea. That's brilliant.
You have
One-
great self-control. I don't know if I could do that, but I applaud that. It's like
I know my son
like, What do you
wishes-
mean you've done this?
My son called me, and I won't tell you before because I would never embarrass him like that. But he called me. I got a phone call at 2
I
a.m.
love to embarrass my son with this.
Oh my
He
God.
watches and then he'll be like, "Really? You had to tell that?" I'm like, "Yes, I did."
No, my son would not appreciate it. So he called me at 2 a.m. and he should have used his fast pass because he didn't. And so he got a side of his mom that he didn't get to see very often. But I told him later, I was like, that was stupid. You should have used your pass because you wouldn't have had to hear my mouth the whole way home.
That's awesome.
That's
So-
good. That's good. So let's wrap this up with one thing that you think parents need to hear that they don't want to hear about this topic. Not about anything, you know. This topic.
You got to pay attention. It's your responsibility to make sure you know what's going on with your kids. It's not anyone else's responsibility. If something happens, you have to get involved quickly. Stay involved. Stay involved, stay present, stay open, keep teaching.
There's a lesson from my own home that if you can't model what a healthy relationship looks like just because of your circumstances, then it is still your obligation to learn to get those resources, where to find them, and how to share them with your kids.
That's
I
right.
love that.
Communicate, talk, be involved, be engaged, and don't assume. I say this all the time to people that because you have their location or you actually pay for something on their phone, that they're safe. Because what that means is you know where their phone is.
Yes.
That has nothing to do with whether or not
right.
you've equipped them with what they need to do to keep themselves safe, and that they feel comfortable enough to use their pass.
That's right.
And make sure, my other thing is make sure they know that the pass can be used on their friends too. So that's kind of the house we have. And we have had those times where, you know, people in the friend group are like, hey, Miss Kennedy, I need to get picked up because for whatever reason, they don't want to call their parents. And we'll deal with that after the fact.
That's right.
But I think when they have that kind of support and that network, they're all going to continue to make good choices, and then they're going to support each other.
That's right.
When somebody might be making a bad choice, they'll call each other out.
Awesome. Awesome. And if you are watching this and you're thinking, I have a question and they didn't address my question, put it in the chat. We will answer your questions if we didn't cover it today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us again. And thank you guys for being here. This was a great
Thank you.
conversation. We'll see you next time on This Is Now Parenting Teens Today.